Right now, Superglow Gloria Allred is my guest. She was described, Gloria, you were described in the Washington Post as a, quote, feminist power lawyer. I call you Superglow. Gloria, how you doing?
Well, thank you very much. I'll take either one, Sage from South Central. Thanks so much for inviting me to be on today.
My pleasure, Gloria. And as you know, the show is now on AM 870, The Answer, so it'll be heard far more broadly than before.
I love it.
Gloria, we are now up to how many accusers?
Oh, I've lost count. I represent approximately 23, and the number keeps going up. But, you know, there are many more, and many more than that, by the way, have contacted me.
Mm-hmm.
Some do not wish to go public. Some are willing to testify if, as, and when it is necessary or relevant for them to do so in the lawsuit that we're handling. Some just wanted me to know the information because if it might help in the lawsuit, they want to be there to help, but, you know, never are going to exercise any legal option. They may not have any to exercise and never plan to go public. So, yeah, the numbers are staggering, Larry.
Gloria, a few days ago, there was a piece in the New York Times about 3 more women who've made allegations, and this time, I believe 1 or 2 of them claim that they were sexually assaulted on the set of the Bill Cosby show.
Well, yeah, and I might add that recently New York Magazine had a photograph on their cover of more than 30 women who had come forward to accuse Bill Cosby of having victimized them. And that cover also featured an empty chair. Mm-hmm. And many people, including me, thought that would represent all of the accusers who have not yet come forward. And so we filled that empty chair this week at a news conference that I held with 3 new women who alleged they were victimized by Mr. Cosby, and they found the courage to come forward to tell what they allege is their truth about what Mr. Cosby did to them. One of them is Linda Ridgway Whitedeer. She was an actor who appeared in a feature film, The Mechanic, which was released in 1972, and she was also in many commercials for well-known brands. And then there was Eden Turl, who was an actor who actually appeared on The Cosby Show, and then Colleen Hughes, who was a flight attendant for American Airlines. And they came forward now because they wanted to support other alleged victims or because they feel they could no longer hold that secret within them anymore or because of what they perceive as unfair attacks on many accusers and attempts to blame victims by Monique Presley, who is one of Mr. Cosby's army of attorneys, and she's recently been hired by Mr. Cosby, and she's taken to the airwaves in what I believe is a very pathetic attempt to defend Mr. Cosby against the accusations of more than 40 women. Now, for example, she recently stated in an interview with Huffington Post Live, quoted in the Washington Post, quote, "I don't think that 10, 20, 30, 40 years later, people get to decide to come forward," end quote. Well, Larry, I think that's absolutely false. I mean, to the contrary, individuals who allege that they were victimized by being drugged or sexually assaulted or raped, they can come forward and speak out at any time. And as you and I both know, Larry, there's no statute of limitations on the right of free speech, and a person who alleges that he or she is a victim can speak out at any time. But many don't speak out at the time they're victimized because they fear that they are not going to be believed, or they may mistakenly blame themselves for what happened to them, or they fear attacks by the rich and the famous and or powerful predator who preyed on them and who may unleash his supporters to attack them, as has been done to some accusers who dared to make allegations against Mr. Cosby. But fortunately, many alleged victims have overcome their fear. They want Mr. Cosby to be held accountable, and they now realize that their silence is only helping Mr. Cosby and hurting the persons who are the real victims. So we say enough is enough, and I have a message for Ms. Presley that instead of trying to change the subject from the specific allegations against Mr. Cosby to vague generalizations and truisms about the criminal justice system, I challenge her to a debate with me, because they now represent more than, well, now 23 of them. So we think it's easy to spew ridiculous arguments in defense of Mr. Cosby when she's with one reporter and able to filibuster and give non-responsive, what I call Cosby-like answers.
Right.
That sometimes evade and avoid answering the question asked. But in a debate with me, she's not going to be able to get away with that approach. So I challenge her to find the courage to stand on the same stage with me and debate the issues and stand up like a woman and do it, and not to give some ridiculous excuse as to why she can't accept my challenge. So I'll debate any issue, and the only exception will be the case in which I represent my client, Judy Huth, against Mr. Cosby, because that case is currently being litigated and Mr. Cosby's California lawyers are litigating it, and I can argue that case in a court of law. So I was looking forward to her response. By the way, Larry, I'd be happy to debate her on your show, of course, as well. And but apparently she issued a short paragraph to the press who asked her, well, will you debate Gloria? And apparently she's not accepting that challenge. She says, well, she's a lawyer, and essentially the lawyers do this in a court of law. Well, obviously for the most people, most of the accusers, there's never going to be a court of law. Ms. Presley knows that. And she's out there on television, on radio, in defense of Mr. Cosby. So that's a non sequitur answer. And I think she should just come on the Larry Elder Show and debate me. What do you think, Larry?
I would love that. But as William F. Buckley once said, when after 33 years he couldn't get Ted Kennedy to come on his show, Buckley was asked why, and he said, "Why does the bologna avoid the grinder?" I don't think I don't think she wants to face you, Glo. But Gloria, straighten me out on this. Cosby was sued, and he did settle. And it appears that did not alter his behavior. He still continued molesting women using these drugs. Is that right?
Well, I can't tell you what he did after that 2005 lawsuit by Andrea Constand, alleging sexual harassment by Mr. Cosby, settled in 2005 or 2006. I can't tell you what he did after that. Mm-hmm. I do know that someone whom I do not represent, and that's Chloe Goins, alleges, I believe, that he engaged in an act of sexual misconduct against her, I think, in 2008. So
right.
I don't know, but all I can tell you is I'm very concerned about his conduct or alleged misconduct over a period of years, and this is so unprecedented. I mean, next year it'll be 40 years I've been doing women's rights and civil rights cases, and I've never seen anything like this.
Now, this deposition is scheduled for when?
Yes, we are scheduled to take his deposition on October 9th.
Is it going to be videotaped?
Yes, and we have given notice to his attorneys that we intend to videotape it.
Will it ever be made public? Will people ever be able to see that deposition?
I don't know the answer to that. If, as and when, there's a trial and he does not appear for trial, then we can use the videotape if he's not available. And it may be that even if he is available, that we may be able to use excerpts of it if we think that it is relevant to do so, as we question him on the witness stand. But other than that, if the question is, do we plan to release it right after the deposition, the answer would be no.
I know you can't talk about this, but I would think that Mr. Cosby, rather than sit for a deposition, might want to try to settle this thing. Has he made some sort of settlement offer in order to avoid the embarrassment of being deposed in front of you?
Well, all I can tell you is this case is on a trial track, and I do not, I don't know what the future is going to bring, and I never discussed whether other attorneys approach me for settlement or not, because I always want them to feel free to talk with me without having that repeated.
Right.
But all I can tell you is it's on a trial track, and we do expect to proceed to his deposition on October 9th.
All I can say is if I were Bill Cosby and I had his kind of money, rather than run the risk of this deposition ever getting out and to say nothing of being eviscerated by you, I'd cut somebody a check. I'm surprised he hasn't done that.
Well, Larry, a while back I offered him various alternatives to resolve all of this. And unfortunately, he was not wise enough to accept my challenge. I said, look, you can waive and give up and agree not to assert the statute of limitations, and invite all of these accusers to sue you, and then just they'll present their evidence in the court of law, you'll present your defenses, and let's let a judge and jury decide. Well, apparently he didn't like that idea. That would, of course, subject him to the public scrutiny of a courtroom. So then I also offered two other alternatives. One would be a confidential arbitration behind closed doors with a retired judge. Again, same procedure. They present their evidence, the accusers, he presents his defenses, and let's let a retired judge, to whom we both agree, decide after a trial.
Gloria,
Again, he did not agree to that.
We've got to go. Gloria Allred, thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Anytime. Thanks, Larry.
You got it.